you know, there's frustration among a lot of folks with regards to preventive measures that folks were expecting a long time ago.
The Comite Diversion Canal is still just a plan. Brittany Weiss, we're going to send it back down to her live in Denham Springs as people wonder if they'll ever build this in their lifetimes. Brittany.
Michael, we first met Jim Jobs in 2014. He's told me all about his flood stories, all 12 of them. He agrees he'll never see that canal. There's new furniture, and the house has been painted.
We have moved in permanently
Into a neighborhood that's never flooded. After 37 years, Jim Jobs learned something.
You can't stop the rain.
But that lesson didn't come easy. He flooded a dozen times and rebuilt just as many. The last time came in August.
I mean, 4 feet of water in the attic. The house was a total.
Jobs held on to hope that help was coming, but it never did.
A lot of talk.
For nearly 2 decades, Jobs paid a property tax to fund the Comite River Diversion Canal, a project meant to keep the river from spilling over and flooding his house.
I would love to have my money back.
Jobs says he could certainly put those funds to better use, since this is all there is to show for it.
And not a damn thing's been done since. All it is a waste of time.
The holdup is and has been funding. It'll take about $200 million to finish. The project needs support from the Army Corps of Engineers, which is to provide the largest share of that. Until that funding becomes available, the actual digging of the canal won't happen.
Because I don't really think it's ever going to get done.
Jobs knows there's no telling what would have happened if that canal had been operating in August, but he's confident it wouldn't have been this bad.
It's just a matter of a good couple of days of rain. That area will be underwater again.
Only now, Jobs won't be there to find out. Now, there has been plenty of discussion about the Comite Diversion Canal, but in terms of progress, there has been no change. But Sylvia, I understand you met up with Congressman Garret Graves recently.
That's right, Brittany. So many folks like Mr. Jobs, who you spoke with there, have a simple question. What is going on with our tax dollars? What is that money being spent for? And when will that project happen? So those are some of the questions that I put to Congressman Garret Graves.
Congressman Garret Graves has become the gatekeeper of the Comite River Diversion Project.
Right now, like what's happening right now with this?
I'm gonna just call this an expensive bathtub.
So basically nothing.
This doesn't provide any real independent utility or flood protection benefits. This is the world's most expensive bathtub. What's going to happen is that once the diversion canal is built all the way to the Comite River over to our east, to the Mississippi over to our west, this is going to convey floodwaters, pull it off the Comite and send it to the Mississippi, therefore relieving floodwaters from the Comite and later Amite River.
On a rainy day recently, we met him there to explain the holdup on the long-delayed project.
All the projects that I worked on in South Louisiana, the billions of dollars in projects in coastal restoration, hurricane protection, and others that we actually built, we ended up taking the lead on them as the state. We used other federal funding streams, we used state funding streams, in some cases BP funds, but we finished projects. And I think a similar strategy needs to be deployed here. And importantly, we have appropriated nearly $2 billion in federal funds to the state. And I think that a portion of those funds, as we've been advocating now for several months, need to be used to finish this project.
When is this going to happen, or will it happen?
There's some people who claim that there's a legal impediment to using a portion of the $2 billion. At the end of the day, I think it is an issue of will. If there's truly a will to do this, of the $2 billion that's available today, a fraction of that, nearly 10%, could be used to fully complete this project. Some of the timeline estimates I've seen associated with full construction, if the money were available today, indicate that this would be somewhere around 2 to 3 years to complete.
Graves says it's time for local governments to invest in the project and avoid waiting around for the feds.
We've got to convince officials at the state level to a large degree that this project is a priority. I think that there's some political concern that if some money were pulled out of that $2 billion, that it could be pulling money out of flood victims' pockets. However, Sylvia, I think something that's really important to keep in mind. If you're sitting there with your flood insurance check, you're sitting there with a check from FEMA or from the Recovery Task Force, and you're trying to decide, am I going to rebuild my home or my business right here in this area that just flooded, maybe even flooded twice or flooded back in '83 or what have you? they're going to want that confidence, that security that it's not going to happen again. Some of the money, the $2 billion that I mentioned, has been allocated directly to the parishes that were affected by the flood, so they could potentially even commit some of the funds to address the goals of this project. We have to fundamentally change the way that they build projects, and it's something that I advocated for and successfully did when I worked for the state of Louisiana carrying out other types of projects. We can fundamentally change them, and that's what I'm working on doing, but I don't think we should sit around and wait for all of these fundamental changes. The people need this project built now. There's $2 billion available. There's project designs that exist. There's a partial solution, a pretty important one here. You need to connect the dots and build the dang project.
At least one area mayor, Sharon Western Broom of Baton Rouge, says that she would actually be open to talking about putting up parish money. Area parish presidents have a meeting to actually talk about flood recovery that's coming up in a few weeks. Of course, we're going to cover that, and we will let you know what comes out of that meeting.